Thank you, Dato, for passing the baton to me now. And I have an immense pleasure to introduce the next speaker who will be talking on the elderly for the next session, Dato Dr. Rajbans Singh. Presently, Dr. Rajbans serves as a consultant geriatrician at Pantai Hospital, Kuala Lumpur. He is the founder, member, and past president of Malaysian Healthy Aging Society and presently is the president of Malaysian Wellness Society. Dr. Rajbans is also a certified nutrigenomics practitioner, and he developed courses of wellness and healthy aging and the focus on educating public on preventive health, wellness, and longevity. Dr. Rajbans has been invited to give numerous talks on healthy aging and wellness and has presented at conferences in Malaysia, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Singapore, Australia, and New Zealand. He has also written numerous articles on health and wellnesses related to issues in local publications, health magazines, and medical publications. He has also spoken in many corporations on concepts of healthy aging and to many clubs and associations. He has also regular shows every Thursday on Light FM, where various health issues are discussed. Dr. Rajbans just published his book called Wellness, Health, and Sickness. His keen interest is aging processes, especially in the early detection and prevention of disease processes, and believes in motto, live long, live well. Dr. Rajbans, I will pass the floor to you to take on.
Thank you, Geeta. And I must thank MLSM for inviting me to give this talk. And the topic actually is basically going to be on the not just the elderly, but basically what I call the current trends in healthy aging. And so I'll just start off very fast with the slides, and then we will go through the. So interestingly, there are a few things that are happening in the world today. And the first thing is basically we are at a time when the world population is increasing very, very fast, right? In spite of all the pandemics we are having, and in spite of all the wars and all the disease, our population has crossed 7 billion. And they say by the end of the century, we're going to hit almost 8 billion. So we got more people walking around the earth, and that's the first issue. But not only that, not only are there more people walking around, we also now find that they refuse to die, right? The lifespan has almost doubled in the last 100 years, right? The end of last century, someone was 45. Today, they almost are hitting 80, and they believe that by the end of this century, a child born in this century will almost live up to 100 and beyond, right? So very interesting. More people walking around, also living longer. But then comes with a catch, right? So we know today life has been prolonged, but people today are not dying from acute disease. Today they die from chronic diseases, right? Degenerative diseases, metastatic cancer, deficiencies that are from the immune system. And ultimately what happens is a lot of disability, immobility, and dependency. Now, we know like today there's a COVID that's coming around, right? It's already killed a lot of people in the world. But if you look at the amount of people that actually die from chronic disease, it's actually much, much more, right? So what we realize today is that though lifespan is increasing, the quantity is increasing, right? But not the quality. Today, though we live longer compared to our ancestors, 20, 30 years longer, but we don't live with quality. The last 20, 30 years, we have a lot of chronic diseases, and that's what is not very great, I would say. It's very sad. And if you look at all, we call it the geriatric syndromes, things like falls, instability, osteoporosis, gait disorders, pressure ulcers, you name it, right? Until the last is immune system failure, right? And that's why the elderly are prone for infections, and that's why COVID is killing a lot of older people, especially so far in Europe and America. And if you come to that, if you look at what I have talked so far, if you look at the diseases of aging, you actually get very depressed, isn't it? Right? And I tell you, when I started in 1995, the first, what I call it, the first geriatric court in the Ministry of Health, I was very excited. But 6 months later, I became quite depressed. And I remember my wife asking me, why are you so depressed? You used to be so happy. I said, no, when I go to my ward, I find that my patients can't either see me, can't hear me, can't remember me, or they just don't know anything, they're just lonely and depressed. And if that's the way people are going to age, not very exciting. So in 1995, I started looking out and say, is there a better way that we should age? Is there a better way that people should be aging? And for the last 25 years, it's actually been an exciting journey where I feel that we are focusing on the wrong thing. We're focusing too much on disease. We're not focusing on the concept of preventive health and wellness. And so right now this is what you will see. In Malaysia, our lifespan is about 70 plus, 75 for what males, 78 for females. So by the mid 30s onwards, we actually start going into a catabolic stage. Most of us, because of the lifestyle, because of things we do, we go into things that are low energy, breakdown, wear down, we start degenerating. And by our mid 70s, we are already, in a situation where, you might as well go because life is coming very sad, right? And that's what we don't want to do. Can we come to a situation like this? You're born, you're healthy right till the end, and one day, you don't know the number, 90, 100, 110, 120, you go to sleep and you go to a better world. No suffering. Is that possible? And that's the question that we have been asking in the 21st century. Is that possible? So what I'm going to talk to you in the next few slides is two things. One is what we have learned from nature. Certain people in the world have shown us this is possible, and what science is bringing to the table, because it's very important. Remember, COVID is come, it will go. But down the line, another virus will come, another bacteria will come, right? Every 10 years, whether it's a SARS, whether it's Nipah, or whether it's H1N1, and now COVID, every 10 years, we will have something coming. And the only thing you have to do is basically, all the measures we talk about, but your immune system is very important, right? To keep your immune system strong, you need to age well. And if you keep your immune system strong, you must prevent all chronic diseases, because it has shown, COVID has come and shown that if you have a chronic disease, I will get you. If you are getting older and you're degenerating, I will get you. If you got disease like cancer, which is an immune system disease, I will get you, right? So they have come and shown healthy people don't seem to get any problems. They might carry the virus, but nothing happens. So again, nature is showing us that if you're not healthy, if you're not aging well, if you have a metabolic disease, I'm going to come and take you away, right? So it's very clear. We have to age well. And let me talk about where people are doing that, right? And we have seen that, the blue zones. When Dan Butler coined the word many, many years ago, the blue zones, there were only one. Then there were two. Now there are 5 areas in the world. You're not talking of a few hundred people. You're not talking of a few thousand people. You're talking of total of hundreds and thousands of millions of people who have shown that this is the way to live. The Okinawans, the Sardinians, the Nicoya, the Icarians, and the Seventh-day Adventists, right? And this has been done so long. In fact, the first study was done by National Geography, The Secrets of Living Longer, right? They came out in 2005. And we were very excited when we first came out with this research on why certain people in the world have very little risk of metabolic diseases, don't get strokes, don't get heart disease, very little cancer, don't get dementia, and they can live up to the 1900s and still be very active, right? So when the research first came out, I was actually very excited. I was waiting for that, the special seaweed or the special mushroom that they must be eating that keep them live longer. But the sad part was, the findings are very straightforward. What they found was these people don't smoke, they put family first, they active every day, they keep socially engaged, eat fruits, vegetables, whole grains, they have faith, they eat nuts and beans, they have lifelong friends, they find purpose, And I looked very hard in that whole study. I was going through the study, but I couldn't find there anything about nasi lemak, mee goreng, roti canai, my favorite foods, I was a bit depressed, but it is very simple. Lifestyle is the key, right? And what I'm going to talk about, what nature does, it is actually very simple, but not easy to follow. Because I tell you, especially we Malaysians, we love our food very much. So what are the blue zones? What did they do that made them so healthy and active to the end? And again, you look at the thing is no rocket science, right? Most of them have regular physical activity. They don't over-exercise, right? For example, the Okinawans play all practice judo, right? They do a lot of gardening. The people in Sardinia walk a lot. They also do a lot of gardening. They walk uphill, right? Same with Icarians and Nicoya Adventists, right? So they have regular physical activity, right? Number two, they have a purpose in life. And that is very important. They know why they get up in the morning, right? It's very, very important. Because I tell people, if you don't know why you get up in the morning, then the guy up there will just say, better come up, wasting your time. So I always tell people, never retire from life. You retire from work, but never retire from life. Always have a reason to get up, right? They manage the stress very well. They don't take a high calorie diet, right? They are very plant-based. They eat less than normal. They only eat 70-80% full. They practice things like intermittent fasting, right? And they very little refined carbohydrates, very little saturated fats. They take very little chemical-based foods or preserved food, right? They eat very natural foods and they don't take too much of calories. They are not addicted to food, which I find a lot of people today as the worst addiction. They are food addicts. You know, a lot of my friends tell me they seafood diet. I say, what is that? Why seafood I eat? And I think that's what a lot of people do. They just can't resist food. So again, this is something very important. They are engaged in spirituality and religion, right? They believe in faith. And that's important because they believe in a higher power, right? And they find that people who have faith live longer. They are engaged in family life and they engage in social life, right? So, you know, they talk about mind, body, spirit, the physical, the metaphysical, the non-physical, right? So they believe in all that. I think this is very important. Simple things, I'm not going to go through a lot of it because each of them has their own, but you can go and go to YouTube and listen to Dan Butler about how he has done the research and see, and he talks in more detail about all these. But like I told you, nature had told us simple things to do, right? But of course not easy because most of us today are very anxious, very negative. We eat a lot of wrong things. We don't exercise. We don't know why we get up in the morning. And of course, forget about social and engagement, right? Because we are so talked about it today. Technology has changed a lot of things. So this is what the blue zones have taught us. This is what nature is teaching us, right? Now comes science in the picture, right? You know, in the 21st century, the uh, what we have found is that there are a lot of people today who are billionaires. 100 years ago, maybe there's one billionaire. Today, you throw a stone, some countries hit a billionaire. Now, what these billionaires have done is that these are billionaires who have come from suddenly first time, right? And these are people who are very excited about life. They want to go to the moon, they want to go to Mars, they want to travel everywhere, right? And one of the things they realize is they want to do all this, they also want to live longer, right? So there's Google people who came and they got a guy called Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil is actually a futurist, right? A futurist. Uh, he's actually one of the famous people, and today he is now the the head of research in by Google, right? So the Google owners, Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, billionaires like these are very excited about living longer, aging, and they started funding a lot of money into the whole research of aging, and it's actually getting very, very exciting, right? So Aubrey de Grey with his NGO called Senescence.org is now the front liner. And all this you can go up and listen to their talks on YouTube, who are believe that we can actually postpone that, right? We can actually slow down and delay that. And one of the things he has done is that he call it the battle against aging begins, right? Because once you can reverse it in mice, you can always make it possible in human. And the research is very exciting. Just to touch a few of the things that we are going to, that already are happening and that I see is going to change the way we look at how aging is. Now, these are what they believe that are the hallmarks of aging, right? I'm not going to go through this. It's a lot of it. It's like rocket science to me, and like science fiction. But this is what they believe makes us age. Genomic instability, telomere attrition, epigenetic problem, prosthesis, your senescence, stem cell exhaustion. These are all the things. So what they're doing now is they're doing a lot of research in a lot of centers, like from Harvard to many other centers in the world, to look at how they can attack each of these areas and delay the whole concept of aging, right? So what we believe is the future of medicine is more towards preventive, predictive, participatory, and personalized. The concept of preserving health, right? I mean, we as doctors, we are very good in treatment. We treat a disease. You tell me what are all the causes of Alzheimer's disease, I can tell you. Tell me all the drugs that can help to slow down Alzheimer's, I can tell you. But you tell me how to prevent Alzheimer's, I will probably look blur a bit, right? But the research is coming. It is very exciting. And I think this is where the future is. I think that the future is we have to look at how we can prevent a disease, how we can age better, how we can build up our immune system and stay stronger, right? Now, remember, this research is exciting, but the foundation is your lifestyle. The foundation is still the lifestyle. You get the foundation wrong, whatever invention comes, you will still not have. The foundation is important, right? Keeping your mind strong, keeping your your the nutrition right, your exercise, managing your stress, your attitude, all that are important, and these are the extra things. Right? The first thing is we map out our genome. Right? Today we actually can look at what we call epigenetics. Right? We can actually talk about switching on and switching off your genes. We can actually do DNA and look at your overall listing. So today we know that don't your genes load the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger, but we know today we can switch off those genes. Right? right? For example, I'm prone for hypertension. I have done my DNA. I know I can prone for hypertension. I can easily put on weight. I can, I cannot absorb fat well. I can easily increase my sugar absorption very fast. So I now can do things to avoid that. I can actually switch off and keep those genes dormant. I can switch off the bad genes. I can switch on the good genes. And I think this is what we call nutrigenomics, and this is coming. This is going to be the future where people will be actually telling you what you can do for you. That's personalized medicine, right? Number two, we already know that the telomere at the end of your DNA is what is involved in aging, right? And there are many studies, more than 8,000 studies to show that the shorter the telomere, the shorter your life, the faster you'll die. And soon you'll be able to actually test yourself, just take a swab. Today take a swab for your DNA, we take a swab for your COVID, we take a swab for your telomere one day, right? And you can see that as your telomere is shorter, we can keep tell you how long before you actually die. Now that may be scary. What exciting is they can also tell you that whatever you're doing, your lifestyle measures, whatever you're doing, can it actually make the telomere longer? And the sightings are very fantastic. Elizabeth Blackburn, who won the Nobel Prize for this, could show that just by exercising, your telomere will grow longer. By smoking, it goes shorter, right? And there's more and more research coming into this where they look at phytochemical nutrition and many other things that they can actually help to make our telomere grow longer, delay aging. It's not a matter of living longer, it's a matter of what we call no more lifespan, but health span. Can we live longer, healthier? And that is the focus where all this research is going, right? Of course, lastly, we can talk of stem cells. There's a lot of research going in stem cells. So still in the research stage, but I think stem cells will play a future in many diseases, will play a future in the way you and I age, right? Uh, I think not only in treatment of disease, but also in wellness and anti-aging and all. I think stem cells will play a lot of roles. Now, I'm not going to talk of things like your artificial intelligence and robotics and nanotechnology and all these other things that are coming, right? Ray Kurzweil believes that by the year 2045, we might even be able to come to a stage where we can actually increase our lifespan to 150, 200, and even beyond, right? But the question is not living longer. The question is living healthier. The way the world is aging today, called the graying of the nations, right? The way it is helped, in Japan, there are 100,000 centenarians. In America, there are 100,000 centenarians. And even in Malaysia, we are going to be an aging population. Actually, we already are. 2020 was the year. So we already call the aging population. And we're not aging well. Just look at the amount of nursing homes that are coming up all over the country. We are not aging well, right? And the reason is because of our lifestyle. The reason is what we are doing to ourselves, right? So great technology is coming, but if you don't take care of your lifestyle, then it's just going to be wasted. And I believe this, I believe this that healthy aging is important because when you are older, you have got so much of wisdom, you got so much of knowledge. Hearing Tansi speak just now, he's aging very well. He's full of life and energy. And I think that's how everyone should be aging. Not sitting in a nursing home, not depressed, not lonely, not falling down, not cannot remember things. That is wrong. Because I believe what Robert Frost says, come along and grow old with me. The best is yet to be. I think that is the best time when your responsibilities are over, your children are grown up, your grandkids are there, and now is the time for you to do great things with yourself. And I believe that as you get older, you got shorter time on earth. The harder you should work. I don't see the reason why you should go and curl up and sit at home. That is the wrong attitude. I find that more and more people who are older just curl up and just give up with life. Wrong. I got patients who are in their 80s and 90s who still run their businesses, who still go out there and do a lot of things, who are still excited about life, right? And I think that's what, if more people can do that, you will age better, the healthcare costs will come up, and you will say bye-bye to COVID because it won't affect you because you got a strong immune system. So with that, thank you. And thank you again for inviting me to speak on this venison.
Thank you, Dato. Dato, maybe there's some questions on the floor that perhaps the audience would like to hear. How are this situation during pandemic, when the elderlies are most vulnerable during this pandemic seasons? So how do you think the society can actually help them?
I didn't get the last one. What is that?
How can the
Society,
society
okay.
actually help
Yeah.
them during this
I
managing?
think if you're already, if you're aging, and I call it what they call the frail elderly. If you are actually a frail elderly, that means you're got a condition called sarcopenia, where you already are weak, you already got other diseases, you're already having a bit of problems with your nutrition and things like that. So we call them the frail elderly, because remember, when you talk about elderly, there are two types of elderly. One is chronological age, and I today don't look at your chronological age anymore, look at your biological age. Someone can be 60, looks like 80, and someone can be 80 looking like 60. And the same helps with their internal organs. The same thing happens with the immune system. So there can be an 80-year-old with a very strong immune system, and there can be a 60-year-old with very poor immune system, right? So I think that's one thing you have to look at. And if someone is frail and he's got a poor immune system, then they have to really practice what we talk about, right? They have to look at things like social isolation. They have to wear masks. They have to really look at sanitization. But the problem with elderly is if you do that, they get depressed, they get more lonely, they get more anxiety, they get more into problems, they don't want to eat. So it's a very fine balance that we have to look here. And so I think very important for these elderly is they must make sure their nutrition is good. They still must get some sort of physical activity, right? Uh, keep your stress levels low, because stress will reduce your immunity, because stress causes your cortisol to go up, right? So simple things like that, a good nutritious diet, maybe I might keep put them on certain supplements like vitamin C and probiotics, so it might not be absorbed that well, but still helps. Something better than nothing. I would want them to get some physical activity, because again, exercise improves your immune system, and I want them to get, reduce their stress, get some sleep, and if possible, don't isolate them too much. Keep all the SOPs as this thing, but make sure they interact. You know, make sure that the kids go and visit them. Make sure the grandkids come, but of course keep your all the SOPs in place. Wear the mask. Make sure you're this thing, because these people are more vulnerable. But I think this is something that the society has to look at and talk. I think we don't see much of this being talked about. That elderly are quite often just dismissed. In even in a lot of them are in nursing homes. You know what's going on, and I think today the as an Asian country, we have lost that what we used to be, where we had a very good social support system. We are losing that soon, and that's why you see a lot of nursing homes coming up. So I think that has to slowly go back. The Again, the community support, like what Tantri said earlier, the community support is very important. Don't forget the vulnerable, don't forget the children and the elderly.
It's actually touching to the point where the societal support is not really there. We are considered not really an elderly friendly country, Malaysia per se. What are the policy makers? What do you think? What can the policy makers do to make this country more elderly friendly? Example like Australia. Is
Yeah,
there?
I think we have brought this up many years ago. I think in 1995 itself, with the National Council of Aging set up, where the Minister of Health was charge, and all the director generals of every other ministry were there. But it's never seemed to take off. I think we still have not come to the situation where elderly friendly, disabled friendly is still there. You can still see that we are lacking that part. For example, the second largest specialty in UK when I left was geriatric medicine after cardiology, right? When I came back, 1995 was the first, and for many years, there were only five of us, right? So even now, we only about 30 of us or 30, 40 of us in the whole country, covering, the number of elderly patients, where Singapore had 20 years ago had already 30 geriatricians, for a small country. So let's just give an example of that. But if you look at all the other support systems, the physiotherapies, occupational therapy, speech therapy, dietitians, all these other supporting geriatric trained nurses, we keep very, very psychiatric trained nurses, even our psychiatry, psychogeriatricians, our numbers are still very strong, low. So you can imagine the support system, not only in the healthcare, but even all the others is still lacking. Uh, Again, I suppose politicians have got other priorities. Tansi just now covered all that. I'm not going to go into all that. But I think it's important. We are already an aging society. And I think you and I are going to age one day. And if you don't have a good support system behind, and I think that's going to be difficult. It's going to take, but it's not only here. I think all over the world, we are aging too fast. The world is aging too fast. Support system is not there. So that's why I focus a lot on healthy aging. I don't want to have a I don't need that disabled friendly, because I don't want to be disabled, whatever my age, right? And I want more and more people to be like that. We don't want, just because you're old, you're going to be disabled, you need support. No, I want people to go out, getting older and still excited about life, still very active, and still contributing to society. And that's my focus. That's what my society is, to teach people on that aspect of it. Right. So I think that's very important. If everybody could just follow that and age well, you don't have to worry about all this. Because then politicians can do what they want. We are going to age well and do what we want.
Thank you, Dato. I mean, that's very enlightening, and hope everybody moves towards a very healthy aging. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us for today, and
Thank you. Thank you again.
thank you
Yes.
very much again from MLSM. And with this, I probably move on with the next speaker. Just a short introduction of Ms. Shanti Abraham. She'll be the she's actually the Vice President of Legal for MLSM, and she'll be moderating on the next session for domestic violence. I'll hand over to Shanti.